Well, new questions today about President Obama's approach to these fiscal cliff negotiations. You know, taxes are going to go up, and there's going to be massive defense spending cuts come next year if they don't do something on Capitol Hill. We showed you at the top of the hour how the White House was grilled today about what spending cuts are being negotiated in order to avoid the spending cuts we're about to get, which many feel are draconian, and whether the president wants to raise these now and deal with them, or whether he wants to postpone them until the new year, and what sense would that make? Well, just last night, syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer claimed the president is not serious about solving the country's fiscal problems, in particular not in the context of these negotiations. In fact, Dr. Krauthammer claims that the president is trying to drive a wedge here. That's his real strategy, to drive a wedge between Republicans. And Krauthammer pointed to a lack of discussion over those spending cuts as evidence.
Why are Republicans allowing the entire debate to be about taxes and about the war among Republicans over holding a line on the Norquist pledge or not, when what Obama is proposing on raising the rates on the 2% is a triviality? It will reduce the deficit from 1.1 trillion to 1.10 trillion to 1.02 trillion. 8 cents on the dollar. It is nothing. It's lunch money. It's a rounding error. And yet that's all the debate that we're hearing. Obama understands this. He's not trying to fix our fiscal issues and problems. He's trying to destroy the Republicans by insisting that there is a split among the Republicans on this issue, which has held them together the same way it destroyed President Bush Sr. when he went back on the pledge he made. This is a political attack on Republicans. There is no evidence right now that he has any interest in the real fiscal issue, because he would have to talk about spending and entitlements, and he isn't.
Joining me now, Marjorie Clifton, former consultant to the Obama campaign and principal of Clifton Consulting, and Noel Nikpour, who's a Republican fundraiser and strategist. Panel, welcome. So your thoughts on that, Marjorie? Let me start with you as the Democrat on whether you think that makes any sense.
Well, I have a hard time understanding what motivation President Obama would have for not getting the deal done. This would potentially send us into a recession, reflecting very poorly upon his economic policies, cutting extreme DoD spending at a time when the issues in the Middle East are rising and there's instability. So there would be no visible benefits, in my opinion, to his not getting this deal done. And everything he's been saying in the media, everything he's been talking about, and even before the election, has been focused on getting this deal done.
But was Krauthammer saying he doesn't want to get a deal done, or was he saying that the way he's making it all about taxes and not mentioning spending cuts? That seemed to be more his focus.
Well, he was saying, a little bit of both. But I think the bigger issue is raising taxes an imperative? Absolutely. And that was something that he saw as a mandate coming out of the election, given that he ran on the platform of raising taxes. But absolutely, the spending cuts are going to be an issue. And it is going to be his responsibility to strong arm some of those Democrats who are putting their feet in the sand. But I think he's also acknowledged a willingness to compromise, and that spending cuts do have to be part of also adding taxes to solve the issue.
Noel, you know what's interesting is that President Obama, Marjorie is right. He did say at that press conference he held 10 days ago that spending cuts would be on the table, that he did want to look at that. And yet the reporting that we talked about earlier in the show from the Washington Post was that he had this big meeting with progressive groups yesterday, including unions and some others, and they emerged very happy, believing that that wasn't really going to be the case, that he was not, that they were going to emerge very happy because he wasn't going to touch any of the so-called social safety net programs.
Well, I mean, Charles Krauthammer is totally right. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's a dog and pony show. I mean, is Obama wanting us to actually believe that if the Republicans don't act, that if we don't increase taxes, that we're going to fall off this fiscal cliff? Because there is another part to this cliff, and that is the spendings. Cut the spendings. I mean, Megyn, we all know that, these taxes are not going to amount to much of anything at all. It is the spending that is enabling us.
Speak to that point, Marjorie, because Charles raised that as well, about what a teaspoon in the ocean this is that they're fighting over. And obviously the rich people who are going to pay it, they don't see it that way, so with all due respect. But no, even if they get that tax hike on the rich, it does so little.
Well, all of them are pieces of a bigger puzzle. All of these things have to happen in tandem, which is why all things are on the table. What I will say is people like Lindsey Graham and Representative Steve King, who have been very long in their position, Republicans, and are very respected Republicans, taking a national stage on the issue of tax hikes, to me indicates that the conversations happening in the back room, the conversations happening with Democrats are in fact promising. Because why else would they parade around and take a stand that they are that's causing trouble within the party? So I think that's actually a good indicator of compromise that's happening. And, you know, we don't see all of this. A lot of this happens behind closed doors, and what the media picks up is sometimes a very different thing.
Noel, what do you make of it? Because Marjorie says, okay, so the tax hikes, maybe they would amount to a small amount. You know, you look at the larger picture. Like Charles says, it's a rounding error. It's lunch money. But she says you have to have all the things on the table. But isn't that what we're discussing right here? Where are the other things?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm outraged about this. I mean, especially when we've got 33 open Senate seats coming up, and, you know, the Republicans are looking at this, you know, these seats pretty hard. This is about cutting spending. I mean, where are we not going to get this? Obama is acting like, you know, I want to work with the Republicans if they'll only, you know, come to terms with these taxes and give way. This is about spending too. Yes, a little bit of taxes, but the bigger picture is about entitlement programs and cutting this darn spending. Enough.
Wouldn't that be interesting, Marjorie, if the Republicans went in and said, you know what, you want tax hikes on the rich, you got it. Let's go back to the Clinton era tax rates.
Well,
rates in particular. We're fine with rates to go up. And then said, now the ball is in your court. What is your plan for reducing the deficit and the debt? And would you please let us know what you want to cut?
I think that might be wildly effective. We got to look at this like a poker game, you know, just go ahead and ante it up, put it all in the middle of the table and see what happens. I mean, you know, if any, what that would do is put the onus on Democrats to actually stand by what they're saying in this compromise. And so if Republicans were willing to do it, I would love to see nothing more, because a compromise does have to happen. And again, as Ronald Reagan would say, you have to, you know, give 10% to get 90. And right now, if Democrats are in the White House, they got to at least give that 10, which is the cuts.
Why? I mean, the Republicans, they just don't. They're not going to do that, are they, Noel? Because they just don't seem to believe that tax increases are what's needed.
It's not a Republican problem. This is a Democrat's problem. This is an entitlement problem.
But you had Grover Norquist. But Grover Norquist, we have to look at.
Don't make this about Grover Norquist.
But to be fair, he's put a lot of Republicans in a very tough spot. I mean, you've again got Lindsey Graham and even Steve King saying, "Look, we understand it's a different day."
But this is what Charles Krauthammer says. He says you're doing the same thing President Obama is doing, which is making the debate about Republicans and Grover Norquist as opposed to, you know, the huge deficit spending we have in the debt. I'll give you the last word on it, Noel.
Well, I mean, we need to get over it. It comes down to the spending. Even if the Republicans go, okay, forget Grover Norquist, we're going to go ahead and go with some of the taxes. The Democrats, Obama, they're not doing their part. Point made.
We'll see. We're not there yet.
All right, I lied. I'm giving Marjorie the last word, the quick last word. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, coming up.